You are taught that money is something you chase. You work, you earn, you save what's left, if anything is left. And somewhere along the way, you were promised that if you did this long enough, something would finally click. Stability, freedom, peace of mind. But look at your life honestly. You've worked harder than ever. You've become more responsible, more disciplined, more adult about money. And yet, the pressure hasn't disappeared. The worry just changed shape. That's because the problem was never how hard you worked. It was the game you were put into without your consent and without the rules ever being explained to you. You were trained to believe money is a reward system. Do the right things, make the right sacrifices, and money will eventually cooperate. But money doesn't work that way. Money is not moral. It doesn't reward effort. It doesn't respond to exhaustion. Money responds to structure. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you're playing a game with rules, positions, and outcomes. And most people are playing it as workers, trying to run faster, push harder, and stay afloat. The 1% are playing a completely different game. Not because they are smarter, not because they work more hours, but because they understand something you were never taught. They don't try to make more money working. They make money working for them. That phrase gets thrown around so often it sounds like a slogan, but it isn't. It's a description of a state where money has a role instead of a grip on you, where income is not the source of your safety, where your life doesn't tighten every time uncertainty shows up. If your money requires your constant presence, constant attention, constant stress, it is not working for you. It is working you. And deep down, you already know this. You feel it when you can't fully relax, even on your days off. You feel it when your income goes up, but your sense of security doesn't. You feel it when you realize that stopping, even briefly, comes with consequences. That feeling isn't failure. It's feedback. It's the signal that you've been playing the wrong role in the right game. This audiobook is not about getting rich fast. It's not about hacks, tricks, or clever shortcuts. And it's not about doing more. It's about understanding the game you're already in. Because the moment you understand the game, the pressure begins to loosen. Not because money suddenly floods in, but because you stop fighting against how it actually works. You were never bad with money. You were just taught to relate to it the wrong way. Like trying to swim by fighting the water instead of learning how to float. When you stop resisting the rules, money stops feeling hostile. When you stop forcing outcomes, stability starts to form quietly. When you shift from chasing to positioning, something subtle but powerful changes. Money becomes neutral, the useful, then steady. And once that happens, it no longer dominates your thoughts. It becomes a tool instead of a threat. This is the game the 1% understand. Not because they were chosen, but because they learned the rules. And once you see the game clearly, you can't unsee it. This is where that understanding begins. 1. The money game. Why hard workers are still trapped. You were taught a simple equation early in life. Work harder. Be responsible. Do your part, and money will take care of you. This idea feels so normal that you rarely question it. It's reinforced everywhere, by school, by culture, by people who genuinely mean well. Hard work is praised as a virtue. Struggle is worn like a badge of honor. Exhaustion is quietly mistaken for progress. So you do what you're supposed to do. You show up, you push through, you stay busy. And when money feels tight, the solution seems obvious. Work more, try harder, sacrifice longer. But here is the uncomfortable truth you've probably felt, but never fully named. Hard work is not freeing you. It is trapping you, not because work is bad, but because you've been placed into the wrong game. Most people believe money works like a reward system. Do enough of the right things and eventually money shows up as compensation, like a paycheck from the universe for good behavior. But money doesn't operate on morality. It operates on mechanics. Money is a game, and like any game, it has rules, roles, and outcomes. The tragedy is not that most people lose. The tragedy is that most people never realize they are playing at all. In every game, your role determines your experience. A player who understands the rules doesn't need to run faster than everyone else. They just need to be positioned correctly. Hard workers are not failing because they lack discipline or intelligence. They are failing because they are playing the money game as laborers, not as designers. When you play as a laborer, your value is directly tied to your presence. If you show up, you earn. If you stop, the flow stops. This creates a life where rest feels dangerous and time off feels expensive. You may earn more over time. You may get promotions. You may increase your skills. But the structure stays the same. Your effort is constantly consumed just to maintain your position. Nothing is allowed to accumulate without you actively pushing it forward. That is not freedom, that is maintenance. And maintenance is endless. The system praises this kind of dedication because it keeps everything running. People who work hard are dependable, predictable, replaceable. They are rewarded just enough to keep going, but rarely enough to step outside the role they were trained for. This is why so many responsible, intelligent, hard-working people feel quietly stuck. They're doing everything right, yet nothing ever feels settled. You feel this trap when your schedule fills faster than your savings. You feel it when your income rises, but your stress rises with it. You feel it when you realize that your lifestyle depends entirely on your continued output. This isn't laziness talking, it's awareness. The money game rewards leverage, not effort. It rewards positioning, not exhaustion. And effort without leverage is one of the most reliable ways to stay busy without moving forward. Think about it honestly. If money rewarded effort alone, the hardest workers on the planet would be the wealthiest. But that's not what you see. You see people working multiple jobs just to stay afloat. You see burnout mistaken for ambition. You see years of sacrifice produce very little stability. Meanwhile, others seem to move with less urgency and less strain, yet their position keeps improving. Their money continues to function even when they are not actively involved. That difference is not character, it is role. In the money game, there are two primary roles: the one who trades effort and the one who designs systems. One relies on continuous input, the other relies on structure. Hard workers are trapped because they are constantly supplying energy into a system that does not return momentum. Every day resets to zero. Yesterday's effort doesn't carry forward unless you repeat it again today. This creates a psychological loop that's easy to miss. When progress feels slow, you assume you need to push harder. When pressure increases, you respond with more discipline. The very behavior that feels responsible is the thing keeping you locked into the cycle. You're not being punished, you're being used efficiently. And the most dangerous part is how reasonable it all sounds. After all, what's the alternative you were shown? Stop working? Be reckless? Give up responsibility? Of course not. So you stay inside the only frame you were given. The money game, as most people experience it, is designed to reward consistency without accumulation. It keeps you focused on activity instead of positioning. It trains you to confuse movement with progress. This is why so many people feel like they are always almost there, almost comfortable, almost secure, almost free, but never quite. The truth is, the game was never designed to let labor alone reach the endgame. Labor is a function, not a destination. It is meant to serve a structure, not become your identity. When you play the money game only through hard work, you are choosing the most fragile position possible. Your entire financial life becomes dependent on your health, your time, your energy, and your ability to keep going. That is not a flaw in you, it is a flaw in the role. And once you see this clearly, something shifts. You stop blaming yourself for feeling tired. You stop assuming you just need to try harder. You stop romanticizing struggle as proof of progress. You begin to recognize that effort is not the problem. Misplacement is. Hard workers are not trapped because they lack drive. They are trapped because they were never taught how the game actually works. And until you understand the rules, no amount of effort will change the outcome. This is the moment where awareness begins. Not with action, not with hustle, but with understanding the game you've been playing all along. 2. Most people play the game as workers. The 1% play as designers. You didn't choose your role in the money game. It was assigned to you long before you were aware there was a choice. From the beginning, you were trained to be useful, to follow instructions, to do what was asked, and do it well. You were praised for obedience, reliability, and effort. These traits helped you succeed in school, in early jobs, and in environments where someone else defined the rules. So you learned how to function inside systems, but no one taught you how to step back and see them. In the money game, this distinction matters more than almost anything else, because there are two fundamentally different ways to play, as a worker or as a designer. When you play as a worker, your primary job is execution. You apply energy, you complete tasks, you respond to demands placed in front of you. Your value is measured by how well and how consistently you perform. This role feels safe at first. Clear expectations, immediate feedback, a sense of contribution. You know what's required of you and you know how to meet that requirement. But safety comes with a hidden cost. As a worker, you're always downstream from the rules. You don't decide how the game works. You don't decide what gets rewarded. You simply adapt to the structure you're placed in. And adaptation, over time, becomes confinement. The problem isn't that working is wrong. The problem is that working was never meant to be the final position in the money game. It is an entry role, not an end role, a function, not a strategy. When you stay in the worker role too long, your financial life becomes reactive. You respond to bills, you respond to deadlines, you respond to market conditions, company decisions, and external pressures you didn't design. Your effort keeps you afloat, but it rarely moves you forward. Designers play a different game. They are not necessarily smarter, more ambitious, or more aggressive. In fact, many of them appear calmer, slower, and less visibly busy. But what separates them is not intensity. It is perspective. Designers look at money the way an architect looks at a building. They ask questions most people never stop to consider. Where does value actually come from? What creates repeatable outcomes? What happens when I step away? While workers focus on tasks, designers focus on structure. While workers ask how to do something better, designers ask whether the system itself makes sense. This shift in perspective changes everything. As a worker, you wake up asking what you need to do today. As a designer, you wake up asking what continues to work even if you do nothing. One mindset is about effort, the other is about leverage. And leverage is the real currency of the money game. Leverage doesn't mean exploitation. It doesn't mean shortcuts or manipulation. It simply means arranging things so that results are not tied one-to-one with your personal energy. When you lack leverage, every gain requires proportional effort. When you have leverage, small inputs can create disproportionate outcomes. Workers are taught to respect effort. Designers are taught to respect systems. That's why so many hardworking people feel exhausted but stagnant. They are pouring energy into structures that were never designed to scale beyond their personal capacity. You feel this when your calendar fills faster than your account. You feel it when success brings more responsibility, but not more freedom. You feel it when you realize that being good at what you do has only made you more necessary, not more independent. This is the trap of excellence in the wrong role. The better you become as a worker, the more tightly you are bound to the system that rewards you for staying exactly where you are. Competence becomes a cage. Designers, on the other hand, are not rewarded for being indispensable. They are rewarded for being unnecessary. That may sound strange at first, but think about it. If a system collapses when you step away, you're not free. You are essential, and essential roles are expensive to leave. Designers aim for the opposite. They build structures that continue without them. They value replaceability because replaceability creates distance, and distance creates freedom. This doesn't mean designers don't work. They do. But their work looks different. It is front-loaded, strategic, and often invisible. It happens before results appear, not during. Workers are paid for time. Designers are paid for positions. This is why the two groups experience money so differently. Workers feel pressure. Designers feel patience. Workers feel urgency. Designers feel timing. Workers fear stopping. Designers plan for it. None of this is about superiority. It's about orientation. You are trained to look forward to tasks. Designers are trained to look upward at systems. Once you see this distinction clearly, you may feel an uncomfortable realization settle in. Much of what you've been proud of, your discipline, your reliability, your willingness to push through, has kept you valuable, but not free. That realization can sting, but it's also the doorway. Because the moment you recognize that your role is not fixed, the game changes. You stop asking how to work harder inside the system. You start asking how the system itself could be rearranged. You begin to notice patterns instead of just problems. You begin to care less about being busy and more about being effective. You begin to see that effort is only powerful when it is placed correctly. This is not a call to quit working. It is a call to stop confusing work with control. The 1% are not allergic to effort. They are allergic to effort without leverage. They understand that energy applied in the wrong role will always feel heavy, no matter how noble it looks. You don't escape the money game by refusing to play. You escape it by changing how you play. And that always begins with stepping out of the worker mindset and into the designer's perspective. Not by doing more, but by seeing differently. 3. What make money work for you actually means you've heard the phrase before. Make money work for you. It sounds appealing, almost obvious. And yet, if you're honest, it's also vague. It gets repeated so often that it starts to feel like a slogan rather than something real. Something practical, something you can actually experience. Most people assume it simply means earning money without working. Passive income, automated cash, the dream of stepping away while money continues to show up. But that interpretation misses the point. Make money work for you is not about absence. It's about orientation. It's not about never working again. It's about no longer being the engine that keeps everything alive. Right now, ask yourself a simple question. If you stopped paying attention to your money for a month, what would happen? For most people, the answer is immediate and uncomfortable. Bills would pile up. Accounts would drift, anxiety would spike, things would feel out of control very quickly. That reaction tells you everything you need to know. Money that requires your constant supervision is not working for you. You are working for it. When money works for you, it behaves differently. It has direction, it has rules, it has limits that protect you instead of draining you. It moves with less drama and less urgency. This is why the phrase is so often misunderstood. People think it's about doing nothing when it's actually about designing something. Money does not magically become productive on its own. It becomes productive when it is placed into a structure that gives it a job. Without structure, money defaults to emotion, and emotion is chaotic. When money is tied to emotion, it becomes reactive. It gets spent when you feel stressed, celebrated when you feel proud, hoarded when you feel afraid. It comes in and goes out without any long-term coordination. In that state, money feels personal, heavy, loud, always demanding attention. This is the opposite of money working for you. When money works for you, it becomes impersonal, quiet, predictable. It follows rules you set in advance, not impulses you negotiate with in the moment. The shift is subtle, but profound. Instead of asking, "What do I want to do with this money?" you begin asking, "What is this money assigned to do?" That single change separates effort from leverage. Money that works for you is money with a role. It may be tasked with stability. It may be tasked with growth. It may be tasked with protection or continuity. But it is never left idle, and it is never left to your mood. Most people don't realize how much energy they spend managing money emotionally. They check balances to feel safe. They avoid looking to avoid discomfort. They make decisions in moments of pressure instead of clarity. This creates a constant, low-grade tension that never fully disappears, no matter how much they earn. You feel this when you hesitate before spending. You feel it when unexpected expenses feel personal. You feel it when money occupies mental space even when nothing is actively wrong. That tension is not about scarcity. It's about lack of structure. When money works for you, it stops being something you wrestle with. It becomes something that moves in the background of your life. You don't negotiate with it daily. You don't justify every decision. You don't feel watched by it. That's because decisions have already been made at a higher level. This is where most people get confused. They think making money work requires complexity, intelligence, or constant optimization. In reality, it requires the opposite. It requires clarity. Clarity about what money is for. Clarity about what role it plays in your life. Clarity about what it is not allowed to control. When those boundaries exist, money becomes stable, and stability is what allows money to compound, rather than circulate endlessly without direction. You don't feel this shift immediately as excitement. You feel it as relief. Relief when money stops demanding constant attention. Relief when decisions feel calmer. Relief when you realize that not every choice carries weight. This is why people who truly have money working for them don't talk about it much. There is no drama to describe, no urgency to broadcast. The system simply does what it's designed to do. Contrast that with money that depends on you. When you are the sole driver, every disruption matters. Illness matters. Fatigue matters. Market shifts feel threatening. Time off feels risky. Your nervous system is always involved. Money that works for you removes you from the center of every outcome. Not because you disappear, but because your role changes. You stop being the fuel. You become the architect. And architecture is quiet work. It happens before results appear. It happens when nothing seems to be moving yet. It requires restraint more than action, patience more than speed. This is why many people resist it. It doesn't feel productive in the way they were trained to value productivity. But once the structure is in place, something important happens. Money begins to feel neutral, not exciting, not scary, just functional. And neutrality is power. Because when money stops triggering emotional reactions, it stops controlling behavior. You make decisions with distance instead of urgency. You plan with time instead of pressure. That is what it actually means to make money work for you. Not that money replaces you, but that it no longer consumes you. Not that you escape effort, but that effort finally accumulates instead of evaporating. And once you experience that difference, you understand why the phrase isn't advice. It's a description of a completely different relationship with money. One that most people never reach. Not because it's impossible, but because they were never taught what it actually means. 4. The one. Invisible rule. The 1% never break. There is a rule governing money that almost no one talks about, not because it is hidden, but because it is uncomfortable. It quietly exposes why so many well-intentioned, disciplined, intelligent people struggle financially for decades, while others seem to move forward with far less visible effort. This rule has nothing to do with motivation, nothing to do with morality. nothing to do with how badly you want it. Money does not respond to intention, it responds to structure. This is the invisible rule that the 1% never break. Most people believe that if their intentions are good enough, money will eventually align. If they care deeply, plan carefully, and try to do the right thing, things should work out. But intention without structure is just hope wearing a suit. You see this everywhere. People intend to save, but their money has no system to protect it. They intend to invest, but emotion overrides consistency. They intend to build security, but everything depends on their continued attention. And when things fall apart, they blame themselves. They assume they lack discipline. They assume they weren't focused enough. They assume they made a mistake. But the mistake was never an effort. It was relying on intention in a game that rewards design. Money is not persuaded by what you mean to do. It obeys what you have already put in place. This is why two people with the same income can experience completely different financial lives. One feels constantly behind, always managing, always reacting. The other feels steady, even when circumstances change. The difference is not behavior, it's architecture. Structure determines what happens when you are tired. Structure determines what happens when you are emotional. Structure determines what happens when life interrupts your plans. Without structure, your financial life collapses into decision fatigue. Every choice becomes a negotiation. Every expense requires judgment. Every unexpected event feels like a personal failure. This creates a subtle but constant mental load. You are always on, always monitoring, always adjusting. That is not because money is hard, it is because your system is fragile. The 1% understands something most people never articulate. Money behaves predictably when it is constrained by rules that do not require ongoing willpower. They do not rely on motivation. They do not rely on memory. They do not rely on good moods. They rely on structure. And structure does something powerful. It removes you from the moment-to-moment equation. When money has rules, it does not wait for you to feel ready. When money has structure, it does not argue with your emotions. When money has a system, it continues even when your attention drifts. This is why the rule feels almost unfair. People assume success comes from trying harder, but trying harder only increases strain if the structure underneath is weak. Pressure on a flawed system doesn't fix it. It exposes it. Think about how many times you've said, "I just need to be more disciplined." That sentence is a clue. Discipline is what you reach for when structure is missing. If discipline were enough, you would already feel free. If discipline were the answer, consistency would not feel exhausting. The fact that discipline feels heavy is evidence that you are compensating for poor design. The 1% avoid this trap entirely. They do not ask themselves to be strong every day. They ask their systems to be strong so they don't have to be. This is not laziness, it is precision. They understand that human behavior is unreliable under pressure. Emotions fluctuate, energy fades, attention breaks. So they design money flows that do not require optimal behavior to function. That is the invisible rule in action. Money flows where friction is low. Money stays where leakage is controlled. Money compounds where interference is minimal, and interference almost always comes from emotion. Fear causes people to freeze. Excitement causes them to rush. Stress causes them to abandon long-term thinking for short-term relief. Structure neutralizes all of that. When rules are in place, emotion becomes irrelevant. Decisions are no longer made in the heat of the moment. They are made once, calmly, and then executed automatically. This is why people with strong financial systems often appear calm, even boring. There is no drama to manage, no constant recalculation, no daily tug-of-war between desire and responsibility. Their money does not require heroics. Contrast this with a life built on intention alone. Every setback feels personal. Every surprise feels like sabotage. Every pause feels dangerous. That anxiety is not about money itself. It's about exposure. Without structure, your financial life is exposed to your weakest moments. With structure, it is protected from them. This is the rule the 1% never violate. They never allow money to depend on their best behavior. They design for their worst days. They assume distraction. They assume fatigue. They assume imperfection. And because of that, their systems survive. Most people do the opposite. They assume they will always try harder next time. They assume future discipline will fix present fragility. They assume motivation will show up when needed. But money does not wait for that. It moves according to what exists now. This is why structure always beats intention. Not because intention is useless, but because intention is temporary. Structure is persistent. Once you see this, a lot of confusion dissolves. You stop asking why effort hasn't paid off. You stop blaming yourself for inconsistency. You stop chasing motivation as if it were the missing ingredient. You realize the truth is simpler and more demanding. Money does not care what you want. It responds to what you have built. And the moment you understand that rule, you stop trying to win through force. You start playing the game the way it actually works. 5. Money as employees, not as emotions. You were never taught to separate money from how you feel. From the beginning, money was emotional. It arrived with relief. It left me with guilt. It created pride, anxiety, comparison, and quiet fear, all at the same time. Even now, money rarely shows up in your life as a neutral tool. It shows up as a signal of safety, a signal of worth, a signal of whether you are doing well enough. This is one of the most subtle traps in the money game and one of the most damaging. Because money that is tied to emotion cannot work for you. It can only react to you. Most people don't manage money. They manage how money makes them feel. They save when they feel scared. They spend when they feel stressed. They hesitate when they feel uncertain. They splurge when they feel proud or exhausted. None of this is irrational. It's human. But it creates a financial life that is unstable by design, because emotions are unstable by nature. The 1% understands something that sounds simple but changes everything. Money is not a feeling. Money is a workforce, and workforces require management, not emotion. When the 1% look at money, they don't ask how it makes them feel. They ask what it is doing. They don't personalize it. They assign it. They treat money the way a competent leader treats employees, with clarity, boundaries, and expectations. Each dollar has a role. Each role has limits, and no role is allowed to improvise. This is where most people get uncomfortable, because it feels cold, detached, almost mechanical. But that detachment is precisely what allows money to become stable. When money is emotional, it argues with you. When money is assigned, it obeys. Think about how exhausting it is to negotiate with money every day. Can I afford this? Should I wait? What if something happens? Do I deserve this? These questions are not financial. They are emotional negotiations disguised as responsibility. And they never end, because emotion has no finish line. When money works for you, those negotiations disappear, not because you have unlimited funds, but because the decisions were already made before emotion entered the room. Money as an employee does not get to decide when to work. It does not get to follow its mood. It does not respond to your stress. It follows instructions. This is why the phrase, "pay yourself first," has survived for generations. Not because it's clever advice, but because it reflects a deeper truth. Money needs hierarchy. Without hierarchy, everything competes. With hierarchy, everything flows. Most people operate their financial lives like an unstructured group chat. Everyone talks, no one leads, every decision feels urgent, and nothing is truly prioritized. The 1% operate their money like an organization. Some money is assigned to stability. It protects. It does not grow aggressively. It exists to remove fear from the system. Some money is assigned to growth. It takes calculated risk. It is allowed to fluctuate without triggering panic. Some money is assigned to living. It is spent deliberately, without guilt, because its purpose is already defined. When these roles are clear, money becomes calm. And when money becomes calm, it becomes effective. Emotion is what causes money to quit its job. Fear fires money early. Excitement sends it to the wrong task. Stress makes it abandon long-term goals for short-term relief. This is why emotional money feels unreliable. It's constantly being reassigned mid-task. The 1% eliminate this chaos by removing emotion from execution. They feel emotions like anyone else, but those emotions do not get to make financial decisions in real time. Decisions are made once, in clarity. Execution happens automatically, without debate. This is not about being rigid. It's about being deliberate. You don't want your money to feel inspired. You want it to be dependable. And dependability is boring, quiet, unremarkable, which is exactly why it works. When money stops being a mirror of your emotional state, something powerful happens. You gain distance. Distance creates perspective. Perspective creates control. You stop checking accounts to calm your nerves. You stop avoiding numbers to protect your mood. You stop making choices just to feel better in the moment. Money stops being personal. And that's not a loss. That's freedom. Because once money is no longer tied to your identity, it stops dictating your behavior. You are no longer defending your worth every time you make a purchase. You are no longer proving responsibility through restriction or success through consumption. You are simply managing a system. This shift is uncomfortable at first. It can feel like you are giving up control, when in reality you are reclaiming it. You are moving control from impulse to structure, from reaction to design. This is why people who truly have money working for them often appear emotionally steady around finances. Not excited, not anxious, just composed. Their money does not surprise them. It does not argue with them. It does not demand constant attention. It shows up, does its job, and stays in its lane. That is not luck. That is leadership. And leadership always begins with refusing to let emotion run the operation. When you stop asking money to validate you, comfort you, or rescue you, it finally becomes useful. It becomes an employee instead of a mood. And that is when money stops controlling your life and starts quietly supporting it instead. 6. Why high income still feels unsafe. At some point, you probably believed there was a number that would fix everything. A salary, a revenue milestone, a monthly figure that would finally make you feel safe. You told yourself that once you reached it, the tension would ease. The constant background worry would quiet down. Decisions would feel lighter. Life would feel more stable. And maybe, for a moment, it did. But then something strange happened. The number went up, and the feeling didn't. In some cases, the pressure actually increased. This is one of the most confusing experiences in the money game because it violates everything you were taught to expect. Higher income is supposed to equal security. More money is supposed to mean more peace. Yet for many people, it doesn't. High income often feels fragile, temporary, conditional, like something that could disappear if you misstep, slow down, or stop paying attention. And that feeling is not imaginary. It's structural. Income is movement. Safety is stability. And those are not the same thing. Income tells you how much money is coming in right now. It says nothing about how long it will last, how dependent it is on you, or what happens when conditions change. When your sense of safety is built entirely on income, you are standing on something that requires constant motion. The moment that motion stops, fear rushes in. This is why high earners often feel trapped in ways that surprise them. They can afford more, but they cannot relax more. They can spend more, but they worry more. Their lifestyle expands, but so does their exposure. You feel this when success raises expectations instead of easing them. You feel it when taking time off feels riskier than before. You feel it when maintaining your position becomes its own full-time job. That's because income without structure increases dependence. More income flowing through the same fragile system doesn't create safety. It amplifies stress. The mistake most people make is assuming that safety comes from volume. More money must mean more security. But safety comes from design. Design determines whether money stays. Design determines whether money repeats. Design determines whether money survives disruption. Without design, income is just a larger stream passing through the same narrow channel. And narrow channels overflow easily. This is why many people feel poorer emotionally as they earn more financially. Their nervous system never adjusts because nothing underneath has changed. They are still the single point of failure. If you get sick, income pauses. If demand shifts, income drops. If your energy fades, income follows. That is not security. That is exposure. Real safety in the money game comes from separation. Separation between your effort and your stability. Separation between your time and your income. Separation between daily activity and long-term outcomes. Most people never build this separation because they were taught to focus on earning, not keeping. On growth, not resilience. On increasing numbers, not strengthening foundations. So they solve financial discomfort with more effort instead of better design. And effort works, temporarily. But effort is volatile. It depends on health, motivation, and circumstances you don't fully control. When effort becomes the primary source of security, safety always feels provisional. This is why systems matter so much. Systems create repeatability. Repeatability creates predictability. Predictability creates calm. High income without systems feels like standing on a ladder you're still climbing. You're higher than before, but you're also more aware of the fall. Systems lower you onto solid ground. They don't eliminate risk. They reduce dependence. And dependence is what creates fear. You can see this clearly when you look at how people react to setbacks. Two people can experience the same drop in income and feel completely different levels of stress. One panics, the other adjusts. The difference is not toughness, it's structure. When your life is built on income alone, every disruption feels personal. It feels like failure, even when it's just changing. When your life is supported by systems, disruptions are absorbed instead of amplified. This is why safety doesn't arrive with a paycheck. It arrives with redundancy. Redundancy means you are not relying on one source, one role, one stream, or one version of yourself. It means that if one part weakens, the whole does not collapse. Most people avoid building redundancy because it feels slow and unexciting. It doesn't come with immediate validation. It doesn't make for impressive stories. But it changes how your body reacts to money. You stop flinching at uncertainty. You stop overreacting to fluctuations. You stop tying your worth to performance. Money becomes something you manage, not something you survive. This is the quiet difference between people who look successful and people who feel secure. High income impresses others. Strong systems calm you. And calm is the real indicator that money is beginning to work for you. When safety is designed, not chased, your relationship with money shifts. You no longer need income to reassure you every month. You no longer feel exposed when things slow down. You no longer panic when the future isn't perfectly clear. You trust the structure you've put in place. That trust is not blind optimism. It's earned stability. And once you experience that, you understand why chasing higher income alone never solved the problem. It was never about earning more. It was about building something that could hold what you earn. That is when money stops feeling dangerous, even in uncertainty. And that is when safety finally becomes real. 7. The shift from hustling harder to designing flow. At some point, effort stops feeling like progress. You're still moving, you're still doing the work, but something inside you knows that pushing harder isn't changing the outcome. This is the moment most people misinterpret. They assume they are tired because they are weak. They assume resistance means they need more discipline. They assume the answer is to double down. But that moment is not failure. It is feedback. It's the signal that the game you're playing no longer responds to force. Hustling harder works only in the early stages of the money game. It helps you learn skills, build credibility, and survive. But hustle has a ceiling, and that ceiling arrives quietly. You don't hit it with a dramatic collapse. You hit it with diminishing returns. More effort produces less relief. More hours produce more pressure. More success produces less peace. This is where the shift begins. Not a shift in behavior, but a shift in perspective. The 1% understands something that feels counterintuitive if you were trained to value effort above all else. Money doesn't move best when you push it. It moves best when you align with its flow. Flow is not laziness. Flow is not passivity. Flow is the result of friction being removed. When you are hustling, you are compensating for friction. You are forcing outcomes through sheer energy. That works temporarily, but it is exhausting because friction never disappears. It just gets overpowered for a while. Designing flow is different. Instead of asking, "How can I do more?" you begin asking, "What is slowing this down?" Instead of adding energy, you remove resistance. This is why designing flow feels strange at first. It doesn't look like work in the traditional sense. It looks like stepping back, pausing, observing, and that makes many people uncomfortable. They were taught that motion equals value, that being busy is proof of importance, that slowing down is dangerous. So when they are told to stop hustling, they hear, "Stop caring." But that's not what's being asked. Designing flow means caring enough to stop wasting energy. Think about water. Water does not push itself uphill through effort. It flows along the path of least resistance. When blocked, it doesn't try harder. It changes direction or reshapes the path. Money behaves the same way. It flows where friction is low. It stays where resistance is managed. It compounds where interruption is minimal. Hustle ignores this reality. It treats money like something to be conquered. Flow respects how money actually moves. You see this difference clearly when you compare stress levels. People who hustle constantly feel tense around money, even when things are going well. They are always alert, always bracing. Their nervous system is involved in every decision. People who design flow feel steadier, not because nothing ever goes wrong, but because problems don't require emotional intensity to solve. The system absorbs them. Flow is created when systems replace willpower, when money decisions don't depend on how motivated you feel, when progress doesn't reset to zero each morning, when momentum carries forward without constant supervision. This is the shift from being the engine to being the designer. As long as you are the engine, everything depends on you. Your energy determines outcomes. Your attention determines survival. Your presence determines progress. Designing flow removes you from the center, not in a way that makes you irrelevant, but in a way that makes the system resilient. This is where many people hesitate. They fear losing control. They worry that stepping back means things will fall apart. But that fear is revealing. It shows that everything currently depends on you. And dependence is not control. It is fragility. True control comes from creating conditions that hold even when you step away. Flow is not created by perfection. It is created by consistency without force, by repeatability without stress, by alignment instead of pressure. This is why the shift often begins internally, before anything changes externally. You stop glorifying exhaustion. You stop measuring progress by how tired you feel. You stop equating struggle with virtue. You begin to value smoothness, stability, predictability. These qualities are rarely celebrated, but they are what allow money to multiply quietly. Flow also changes how you relate to time. When you hustle, time feels scarce. You are always racing it. When you design flow, time becomes an ally. You stop trying to compress everything into urgency. You allow processes to mature. This patience is not passive waiting. It is deliberate pacing. You are no longer trying to win today. You are positioning yourself to still be winning years from now. This is why the shift cannot be forced. You don't decide to stop hustling one day and suddenly feel calm. The shift happens when you see clearly that hustle is a tool, not a strategy. A temporary phase, not a permanent solution. Once you see that, your questions change. Instead of asking how to push harder, you ask where friction still exists. Instead of adding more effort, you remove unnecessary complexity. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you focus on creating conditions. And conditions do most of the work for you. This is when money starts to feel less heavy, not because you have more of it, but because it no longer requires you to fight it. Flow replaces force, and when that happens, progress becomes quieter, but far more durable. That is the real shift, not from effort to ease, but from chaos to coherence. And once you experience that coherence, hustling feels less like ambition and more like a phase you've outgrown. 8. The quiet endgame of the money game. Most people think the endgame of money is excitement, more freedom, more choices, more proof that they've made it. They imagine a future where money finally delivers a feeling: relief, confidence, pride, maybe even superiority. Something visible, something unmistakable. But that is not how the money game actually ends for those who understand it. The real endgame is quiet. Not silent because nothing is happening, but quiet because nothing feels urgent anymore. The 1% don't win the money game by creating constant stimulation. They win by eliminating unnecessary pressure. They are not chasing highs. They are designing permanence. This is one of the hardest ideas to accept if you are raised to equate success with intensity. You are taught that if something matters, it should feel dramatic. That progress should be obvious. That ambition should be loud. But money behaves differently. The closer you get to mastery, the less noise there is. When money finally works for you, it stops announcing itself. It stops demanding attention. It stops hijacking your emotions. It becomes boring. And boring in the money game is a compliment. Excitement is a sign of instability. Urgency is a sign of fragility. Drama is a sign that something is exposed. The endgame is the opposite. You wake up without immediately thinking about money. You make decisions without scanning for financial consequences. You handle disruptions without panic, not because nothing ever goes wrong, but because nothing threatens the foundation. This is what most people misunderstand when they look at those who have truly made it. They assume the calm comes from abundance. In reality, the calm comes from design. The money game does not end when you reach a certain number. It ends when money stops being the main variable in your life. When it no longer dictates where you live. When it no longer determines what you tolerate. When it no longer controls how you feel about the future. This is why the 1% do not chase excitement. They avoid it. They understand that excitement is expensive. It encourages risk without patience, consumption without intention, and decisions made for stimulation rather than stability. They are not trying to win fast. They are trying to stay in the game. Longevity is the real advantage. The money game rewards those who last, not those who peak. Those who survive downturns, boredom, and long stretches of unremarkable consistency. This is why quiet wealth often looks unimpressive from the outside. There is no urgency to prove anything, no need to signal success, no dependence on validation. When money works for you, it stops being part of your identity. You're no longer the person who earns. You're no longer the person who's struggling. You are simply a person whose financial system functions. That neutrality is the endgame. Because neutrality frees attention. And attention, once freed from money, can finally be directed toward life, toward health, toward relationships, toward choices made because they matter, not because they pay. This doesn't mean money disappears from importance. It means it takes its proper place. Money becomes infrastructure, like electricity, like plumbing, like a foundation you don't think about unless something breaks. And when something does break, you fix it without panic, because the system was designed to handle stress. This is the state most people never reach, not because it is unattainable, but because it is unglamorous. There is no applause for stability, no viral moment for restraint, no social reward for boredom. But boredom is exactly what allows compounding to work. Compounding requires patience. Patience requires emotional regulation. Emotional regulation requires that money not be tied to your self-worth. This is why the end game is quiet. The money game ends when you stop needing money to say something about you. When it no longer proves your intelligence. When it no longer compensates for insecurity. When it no longer measures your progress as a person. At that point, money becomes useful rather than symbolic. You spend deliberately. You save without fear. You invest without obsession. You stop looking for the finish line, because the finish line was never the goal. The goal was to remove money as a source of tension, and tension only disappears when systems replace stress. This is why those who understand the game rarely talk about it in dramatic terms. There is nothing dramatic to report. The work was done earlier, quietly, slowly, and often invisibly. What remains is steadiness. And steadiness is powerful. It allows you to think long-term when others are panicking. It allows you to wait when others are rushing. It allows you to choose restraint when others are reacting. That is the final advantage. Not more money, not faster growth, but composure. The composure to let time do its work. The composure to let systems operate. The composure to let money stay in its lane. The money game does not end with celebration. It ends with calm. With the realization that you no longer need to win today. That you no longer need to impress. That you no longer need money to reassure you. And when you reach that point, something subtle but profound happens. You're no longer playing against money. You're simply living with it. And that is the quiet endgame the 1% understand. Not because they are different people, but because they learn to design for permanence instead of excitement. That is when the game truly ends. You were never meant to struggle endlessly with money. That idea was handed to you quietly, disguised as responsibility, discipline, and virtue. You were told that pressure was normal. That worry meant you cared. That exhaustion was the price of being good with money. But now you can see the truth more clearly. Money was never the enemy, and you were never the problem. What kept you trapped was not a lack of effort, intelligence, or willpower. It was a misunderstanding of the game itself. You were taught to play as a worker in a system that rewards designers. You were trained to push harder in a world that responds to structure. You were encouraged to manage money emotionally in a game that only responds to rules. Once you understand this, something fundamental shifts. You stop asking why money feels heavy. You stop blaming yourself for feeling stuck. You stop chasing numbers, hoping they will finally bring peace. Instead, you begin to see money for what it really is, a neutral force that responds predictably to how it is positioned. When money has structure, it calms. When money has a role, it stabilizes. When money is removed from emotion, it becomes useful. This is what it means to make money work for you, not as a slogan, but as a lived experience. Not a moment of success, but a permanent change in relationship. You don't arrive there by force. You don't arrive there by hustle. You arrive there by clarity. Clarity about your role. Clarity about systems. Clarity about what money is and what it is not allowed to control. The endgame was never excess. It was relief. Relief from constant vigilance. Relief from fear disguised as motivation. Relief from the feeling that everything depends on you holding it together. When systems replace stress, money stops shouting. When design replaces effort, stability emerges quietly. When patience replaces urgency, time becomes an ally instead of a threat. This is why the people who truly understand the money game rarely look dramatic. They are not chasing excitement. They are protecting permanence. They are not trying to win fast. They are trying to stay free, and freedom in this game doesn't look like escape. It looks like calm mornings, clear decisions, a nervous system that no longer flinches at uncertainty. You don't need to become someone else to reach this point. You don't need special talent or luck. You simply need to stop fighting how money actually works and start working with it. Once you do, money stops being something you fear, chase, or prove yourself through. It becomes what it was always meant to be: a tool, a system, a quiet support in the background of a life you are finally free to live. That understanding doesn't end the journey, but it changes everything about how the journey feels. And from here on, you're no longer playing blindly. You know the game,